Hey guys, my name is Total Warzone and welcome to another top 5 video. So today we're doing the top 5 Barbarian factions in Total War Rome 2 and we're looking at both campaign and multiplayer. All these picks are picked by you, by the community. You can vote for your picks in the comment section below. Please reply to my comment to be featured in one of those videos if you're lucky. You can also mention me on Twitter, I will also find it right there. In other news, it would be cool if you could vote on my poll. The link to that poll is in the description. It's a poll about campaign AI in action. Which campaign would you like to see next? Now let's dive into the list. So I got a couple of honorable mentions for you guys, because there are a lot of great Barbarian factions in this patch. The first honorable mention comes from Evan1214, the Lusitani, the Iberian tribe of the Lusitani. Great faction for sword rushes because of units like Iberian swordsmen, veteran shield warriors and Lusitani nobles. Those guys are just beastly swordsmen. They do lack cavalry though, and they have a very difficult starting position because the enemy factions close by will just spam the same units. It's hard to get the better of them. Then the second honorable mention comes from Yuri, the Suebi. These guys were just beasts in previous patches because of the scare units they have, but now that scare got nerfed, they're not that great anymore. They're still kind of powerful though because of their good all-around roster, so that's why they're still as an honorable mention in this list. Then the last honorable mention comes from Lord Furiex, the Nervii, just great for sword rushes in multiplayer, but there are just better options, better barbarian factions that do the same thing. Single player isn't that easy for them as well, kind of a hard starting position. Then we're getting into the real list, starting off at number 5, picked by Vecner Summers, the Ice L. I mean the Iceni. Well, he probably means the Iceni, so let's keep it at Iceni. This is by far the best barbarian starting position in the game. Good starting armies, defensive position in Britain, a walled starting settlement of Camelodonon, if I pronounce that right, resources nearby, and the wonder of Stonehenge nearby, so the best barbarian starting position. Their units are kind of lacking though. Almost all their units lose to the Celtic counterpart. For example, chosen swordmen lose to chosen swordsmen. Veteran riders lose to heavy horse. All that kind of things, they just lose in every department. They do have access to chariots though. They are handy in single player against lightly armored units, but they're not that great in multiplayer. So number 5 spot for the Iceni because of their single player position. Then we're going to number 4, picked by Aardemans or Aardemans, the Arverni. A great all-around Celtic faction and of course the mainstream goal faction in the game. The main Celtic units are powerful. Chosen swordsmen, chosen spearmen, oathsworn, heavy horse and Celtic warriors are all very handy units and very good. They do kind of lack in the single player department though, because their starting position can be kind of hard with all those tribes close by who field the same armies. This Arverni pick is really here only for their army and for the units. They're just great in battle, great for sword rushes and also access to good cavalry because of heavy horse. Now we're heading to number 3, picked by Aron Tragardh, if I pronounce that right again, Galatia. A good unit roster. Galatian legionaries and Galatian raiders are very handy and powerful. They also have access to powerful eastern mercenaries such as Cappadocian cavalry and Syrian archers, both in battle and campaign. So the units are kind of cool. They have a kind of a small roster, but the units in there are good, handy for battles. They also start out with a walled settlement in Ankara, of course, but their neighbors are kind of easy to invade as well, because they have multiple settlements most of the time. For example, Cappadocia, Pontus, they are not that hard to invade in the beginning of the game. The only downside is the culture, because you're basically the only barbarian faction in the Minor Asia region. Then we're going to number 2, Owen Henderson. Despite having a hard start, location and little resources, it is the army composition in my opinion. The mixture of Thracian and Celtic units make for a powerful combo. That's true, I completely agree. Amazing unit roster. Raiding Horseman is a great hybrid missile unit, missile cav unit for example, and they also have access to tribal warriors and they can be called OP in my opinion. Their defense and their armor is great for barbarians. Gallo Thracian infantry is also very handy, but they do lack the powerful heavy horse unit for the Celtic factions. They're great for sword rushes again in both multiplayer and single player of course. The single player position is not the easiest however, so this faction is also here only for its multiplayer battle roster. They're just probably one of the best factions in multiplayer right now in general. So yeah, that's what I hear. And to end everything up, we're going to the number 1 spot, and this one was picked by a good friend of mine, ThePrussianPrince, or friend of mine, he's a good guy. He picked the boy guy. A great Barbarian roster, according to a lot of people the best Barbarian roster in the game, and of course ThePrussianPrince knows what he's talking about, he's a great round 2 player. Sword followers, heavy horse and axe warriors, all those kind of units, they're just great for sword rushes. Heavy horse is a very cost effective and powerful cav unit as well, so this is probably the best faction for Barbarian sword rushes. And Barbarian sword rushes are really the main competitive playstyle in the game right now in this patch. They're at the number 1 spot because they also are quite good in single player. They start out with a full province, and that's kind of rare for Barbarians, so they also have access to a provincial capital, so they're kind of strong in the beginning. They do have a challenging war with Suebi, however. So this was my top 5 list of this week, hopefully you enjoyed it. Next week we're going to do the top 5 worst factions in general in Total War Round 2, so you can vote for that in the description and on Twitter. So hopefully you enjoyed this list, and I hope that I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.